US talk show host Oprah Winfrey is looking forward to doing some belt tightening. Winfrey is one of the richest and most influential people in the world. But for years, she's battled for control over one thing, her weight. Alina Cho has the story.
Oprah says she hit bottom a year ago when she had to go on stage with Tina Turner and Cher.
I was embarrassed, and I wanted to be any place other than there. I wasn't going to do it. I wasn't going to do it.
And so she says she tried to keep it a secret.
Here I am, one of the most visible people in the world, trying not to be seen.
She says photo shoots for her magazine became embarrassing, with stylists trying to help her conceal the weight. But after months of hiding it, Oprah's putting it all out there, posing next to a smaller version of herself, and once again, opening up about a very painful and personal subject.
I am mad at myself. I am embarrassed. I can't believe I'm still talking about weight.
It's been a public struggle for decades. Remember this? That was 20 years ago. Skinny, size 10 Calvin Kleins pulling 67 pounds of fat in a wagon. Just 4 years later, the pounds were back on, and Oprah tipped the scales at more than 230 pounds. She eventually got down to 160 pounds, but says she started feeling sick.
The moment I heard that I have a thyroid problem, I just thought, well, I don't even know how you fight this. I felt completely defeated. And I think, okay, that's it, I give.
Then it got worse. Oprah says she was put on medication that literally sucked the life out of her.
Her obesity became an excuse that she could hide behind. Oprah took it one step deeper. She hid behind her hormones.
It got so bad, her longtime trainer asked if she was depressed.
What? Me? Depressed? I can't be depressed. I know what depression is. I'm not depressed.
Oprah says that conversation with her trainer and longtime friend Bob Greene was a turning point. She says 2009 will be the year hope wins, that it's about finding balance, about putting yourself back on your own priority list. And Oprah, by the way, says she doesn't want to be thin anymore. She wants to be healthy, strong, and fit. Alina Cho, CNN, New York.
China is now the world's third largest economy, and according to revised figures, it's been there since 2007. China's National Statistics Bureau says the economy grew at 13% that year, more than previous estimates. The figure was released as China faces the weakest economic expansion since the 1990s. The US economy remains the world's biggest, followed by Japan's.
Russia's Orthodox Church has a new patriarch. The church's Congress overwhelmingly voted for the interim head, Metropolitan Kirill. Now he defeated his conservative challenger with 508 of the 700 votes cast. Kirill succeeds Alexei II, who died last month. He's considered a modernizer and someone who could seek a historic reconciliation with the Vatican. Metropolitan Kirill will be enthroned on Sunday. Now, a U.S. Airways plane that made an emergency water landing last week has been lifted by cranes from a New York river. A National Transportation Safety Board official says both the cockpit voice and flight data recorders have been recovered. Information from both recorders was consistent with reports of the plane hitting a flock of birds before both engines lost power. All 155 people on board survived Thursday's water landing. Well, after nearly 2 weeks of bitter wrangling, the prime ministers of Russia and Ukraine say that they've reached a compromise to end the natural gas crisis. The dispute cut off supplies to millions of people across Europe, leaving them without heat in the middle of winter. And it's still not clear when the gas will start flowing again. Environmentalists in London say they've dealt a blow to plans to expand Heathrow Airport. Greenpeace says it's bought up adjacent land earmarked for the construction of a third runway. It says we'll divide the land into tiny pieces to slow down any planning processes. Now, the UK government is considering an expansion, but there is speculation that it will delay its decision. Greenpeace is concerned that a third runway will create extra pollution and noise.
Wanted, one island caretaker of Australia's Great Barrier Reef. Pay $100,000 for 6 months of watching whales, feeding turtles, or whatever else you'd like to do on a tropical island. Oh, you might have to clean the pool at the beachfront 3-bedroom luxury house that comes with this package. And all you have to do is write a weekly blog for the Tourism Board of Queensland about your island experience. So is it a job too good to be true? Tourism Queensland insists there's no catch, just, quote, the best job in the world. Others might call it a publicity stunt for Australian tourism, but one that just might work.
Word of mouth is really important now. You need to hear from fellow travellers what a destination is really like. So what better way than to create a job to allow someone to do that? They have to be over 18, they have to be able to swim, and apart from that, it's open to anybody.
The land down under has been hit hard by the credit crunch. Tourism Research Australia says tourist numbers could fall by 4% this year, especially from mainstay markets like the UK. So will the best job in the world spark new interest? Well, so far so good. On opening day, the website has been flooded with 33 hits per second. All applicants have to do is submit a 60-second video to this website, islandreefjob.com, explaining why they are the perfect candidate to be island caretaker. It's very tempting. So, rainy London versus sunny Australia in the middle of a credit crunch? What would you choose? Well, better get your applications in. The deadline for the best job in the world is February 22nd. Atika Schubert, CNN, London.
It is one of the most enduring symbols of school days, the venerable blackboard. But Carol Kloss shows us a new device that may make it obsolete, and it's just one of a number of high-tech teaching tools.
Ashland Park Robbins Elementary School, and you'll notice one teaching tool is a thing of the past.
I cannot imagine teaching with a chalkboard after I've used this.
This is the 21st century way of getting kids to learn. It's called Active Board. Teacher Laura Topp tells us it gets her second graders motivated and keeps their attention in class.
Kids a lot of times are always almost oohing and eyeing sometimes when you turn the page, just at the new things that they see and the new things that they can learn with it are just really exciting.
The Active Board is used in any subject or any grade. It doesn't matter.
You tailor it specifically to your lessons, and it's an amazing tool.
Not only is the chalkboard gone, but so is raising your hand in some activities. Now students can participate by texting their teacher the answer. No matter how you use it, both Chappell and Topp agree the best thing about it is instant results.
Instead of having my back to them, I can definitely see who's with me, who's getting it, who's not getting it.
Topp says this interactive education tool will benefit her students for years to come.
What country gets less than 1% of its electricity from fossil fuels? It's Iceland. Jim Bolden reports from a country that harnesses the geothermal power below to heat its homes and spas, but has so much more it can do.
From the power plant to the backyard, people in Iceland are harnessing the abundance of natural energy that is literally spewing from the ground. 74-year-old Gunnar Ingvarsson tapped a geothermal well on his farm 20 years ago.
There was hot water pumping on its own, and the idea came from that.
And Ingvarsson says the world could learn from his experience how to harness cheap, environmentally friendly energy. The goal 20 years ago was to supply cheap hot water to this farm and to neighboring farms. Ingvarsson says he had no idea the potential he was tapping into. Now he supplies hot water to 450 summer homes across the valley. Just a few kilometers from Ingvarsson's farm is Iceland's most famous attraction. This is Iceland's famous geyser, or geyser as some call it, but it doesn't spout as much as it used to. Frequent earthquakes change the pattern of the country's natural hot water, but not Iceland's use of the volcanic power below, for power and for pleasure. In 2006, a mere 0.1% of the country's electricity was generated using fossil fuels. The rest is geothermal and hydropower. The country's president told CNN earlier this year others can follow.
In the last 10 years or so, we have started to utilize the technology that we have developed and export that to other countries. Because in a sense, we have built up a model of how you can transform an entire economy from being based on oil and fossil fuel over to clean energy.
But President Grimson says nearly 100 other countries have the same geological advantages but don't exploit it properly. In fact, even Iceland admits it still uses only about a fifth of the country's valuable hydro and geothermal potential. Iceland's leaders say its financial crisis could be softened if more industrial companies came to Iceland to take advantage of the cheap energy. Jim Bolden, CNN, Lugavatten, Iceland.
They've done it again. Researchers at Japan's Waseda University have unveiled a new robot that's even more human-like than the last. Thanks to high-tech engineering and 13 sensors on one hand alone, the 21 can mimic even some sophisticated human movements. It's not just a cool-looking toy. The robot's creators say it could be used in a number of ways. For instance, assisting the elderly or helping hospital patients move from a bed to a wheelchair.
It's other animals that are causing problems in Chile. Inspectors carrying out what they thought was a routine fishing boat inspection instead found some 400 exotic animals from Peru. There were macaws, parrots, turtles, even crocodiles, destined for illegal trading. Most of the animals are protected by an international trade agreement. Well, Madonna has been photographed many times over the years, often by famous photographers. And now 2 images of the material girl are going on the auction block. They're expected to fetch $10,000 each at Christie's next month. One is a nude taken by Lee Friedlander when Madonna was around 20. The other was taken by Helmut Newton in the 1980s.
Now, it's being touted as Queenstown's first Facebook arrest. New Zealand police posted security camera images of a man trying and ultimately failing to break into a safe. A day later, the man was in custody and charged with 2 counts of burglary. The 21-year-old man broke into a local pub and took off his mask during his attempt to crack open a safe, providing the security camera with a very good look indeed at his face. The New Zealand police joined Facebook just 2 months ago.
Let's take a look at what else is going on as we take you around the world for weather. We're first going to Europe, where we have temperature of -2 degrees in Warsaw. It's 3 degrees in Berlin, 4 in Manchester, England. And finally, it's nice to see some milder temperatures as we go from west to east. The cold air is starting to retreat a bit, although it is -2 in Budapest. The reason we're getting warmer conditions is the clouds kind of tapping into the moisture from the Atlantic. That it makes the air a little bit warmer, just a little bit, and it helps overnight to keep the temperatures up.
I'm out running usually between 4:30 and 5 a.m. It's sort of my solitude time. On my daily morning runs, I would see this group of homeless men. Homelessness is a big problem in Philadelphia, and it's been for a long time. I started to realize that I'm moving my life forward every day, physically, emotionally, mentally, and these guys are standing in the same spot. My name's Ann Malum, and I run an organization called Back on My Feet, where we use running to help the homeless move forward. When you join Back on My Feet, you get a new pair of shoes, hats, a long sleeve shirt. It's like, welcome to our team. We run together 3 times a week between 5:30 and 6 in the morning. We have doctors, lawyers, homeless people. All you can tell is who's the fastest. You can't tell, who's homeless and who's not. Mike was one of the original members. He grew up running the streets, but now he's going back to run the streets the right way.
And it's helping people see the hero in themselves.
Do we need homes? Yes. We need jobs? Yes. But imagine if you didn't have anybody in your life who said, I'm really proud of you. And Back on My Feet does just that.
Nobody could be happier for anybody than we are for Mickey Rourke, who has earned an Oscar nomination as Best Actor for performance in The Wrestler. He's already won the Golden Globe Best Actor for that role. We congratulate him. This is his first Oscar nomination. Were you surprised?
I was surprised, sure. I mean, it's been a long, winding road. I was surprised. After about 6 days of working with a director like Darren Aronofsky, I knew we had something special, and all the actors that he hired were really good. And
How did you get the role of The Wrestler?
Well, I think it wasn't just that role. I think what it was an accumulation over the last 4 or 5 years of being accountable and having somebody like Darren being able to check with the last group of directors that I work with, talk to Tony Scott or Robert Rodriguez, and the feedback was he's changed. He's not the handful he used to be. And so, I had to take that journey.
Do you have to learn to wrestle?
I did, in that I didn't know nothing about wrestling. I had a preconceived idea of how I thought it was, and I couldn't have been more wrong. I mean, having come from a boxing background, I looked at wrestling like, it's a predetermined outcome, it's choreographed, and I thought, I could do that in a heartbeat.
Do you think this is fair to say it's a comeback, this movie?
I would say it's fair to say comeback hasn't. When you use the word comeback, it can be so defined. So, come back from where? Come back from.
Well, you were certainly a major figure.
Right.
Did extraordinary roles, and then you kind of fell off the planet.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
So it's a comeback.
It's a comeback. Well, I can roll with that.
What was the hardest part as an actor about doing this film?
I think the emotional stuff was really hard, and I think that's why Darren wanted me to do the movie, because he knew stuff deep inside about revisiting some painful, dark places, and he knew a lot about my story. The other thing was the training was putting on. I walk around at about 192, and I had to get up to about 226, 227, 228, and I had only 7 months to do it, and that would help.
What are you doing next?
We're talking to the people, or they're talking to us about the Iron Man, and there's some other stuff down the road, maybe a project with Walter Hill, and something with Tony Scott, maybe over in Berlin.
Not an action thing?
More of a, not action, like drama.
Are you happy?
I'm content. I'm okay. There's a lot I've got to be thankful for. I've worked hard. Change has come hard for me, and
I got a kid.
I'm glad it took me a decade or so to change, and the change has been for the better.
Montblanc's products include watches and jewelry, but it's most famously known for its pens. They can set you back anything between $250 to $2,900. So are they seeing a change in slowdown in demand. CNN's Monita Rajpal sat down with the CEO of Montblanc, Lutz Bethke.
I very much believe that the customers will very much look for brands and for products more carefully, and they will look for brands and for products which have a sustainable value.
Do you believe that you have to be that much more competitive now because you really have to fight for that person's dollar?
Well, I think certainly taking care of the customer becomes more and more important. It always is important because, if you don't listen to your customer at one point in time, he will just not follow you anymore. And yes, in these days, I think you have to be even more listening to your customer and to take more care of the customer. And that's what Montblanc is doing.
Do you think that there was a time, even up until 2 years ago, that the whole idea of luxury and brands like Montblanc and others that are exhibiting here, their identity was diluted because of the mass appeal, because people had the money to spend?
I believe that there was a risk for each brand to go after the latest trend because there was so much in demand. And we always believed when we started with new products, we have a habit, we are sitting all around the table and the designers are there, the marketing people are there, and then we ask the question, right? We say, do you believe a customer would still favor this product within 10 years' time? Would he still be or she still be proud of the product? And only if this is a clear yes, we are going to manufacture the product. So to a certain extent, maybe we didn't benefit from this hype about latest trends, but I believe now we are well positioned, to get out of this situation much better than others.
How does it affect your pricing?
Well, pricing is certainly a story which is very much as well influenced by volatile currencies. And I think in these days you have to be, of course, more careful with that. So we will have to see how we go through, and we have to deal with every case separate.
My fellow citizens, I stand here today humbled by the task before us, grateful for the trust you've bestowed, mindful of the sacrifices borne by our ancestors. I thank President Bush for his service to our nation. As well as the generosity and cooperation he has shown throughout this transition. 44 Americans have now taken the presidential oath. The words have been spoken during rising tides of prosperity and the still waters of peace. Yet, every so often, the oath is taken amidst gathering clouds and raging storms. At these moments, America has carried on not simply because of the skill or vision of those in high office, but because we, the people, have remained faithful to the ideals of our forebears and true to our founding documents. So it has been, so it must be with this generation of Americans. That we are in the midst of crisis is now well understood. Our nation is at war against a far-reaching network of violence and hatred. Our economy is badly weakened, a consequence of greed and irresponsibility on the part of some, but also our collective failure to make hard choices and prepare the nation for a new age. Homes have been lost, jobs shed, businesses shuttered. Our health care is too costly, our schools fail too many, and each day brings further evidence that the ways we use energy strengthen our adversaries and threaten our planet. These are the indicators of crisis, subject to data and statistics. Less measurable, but no less profound, is a sapping of confidence across our land. A nagging fear that America's decline is inevitable, that the next generation must lower its sights. Today, I say to you that the challenges we face are real. They are serious and they are many. They will not be met easily or in a short span of time. But know this, America, they will be met. On this day, we gather because we have chosen hope over fear, unity of purpose over conflict and discord. On this day, we come to proclaim an end to the petty grievances and false promises, the recriminations and worn-out dogmas that for far too long have strangled our politics. We remain a young nation, but in the words of Scripture, the time has come to set aside childish things. The time has come to reaffirm our enduring spirit, to choose our better history, to carry forward that precious gift, that noble idea passed on from generation to generation, the God-given promise that all are equal, all are free, and all deserve a chance to pursue their full measure of happiness. In reaffirming the greatness of our nation, we understand that greatness is never a given. It must be earned. Our journey has never been one of shortcuts or settling for less. It has not been the path for the faint-hearted, for those who prefer leisure over work or seek only the pleasures of riches and fame. Rather, it has been the risk-takers, the doers, the makers of things, some celebrated, but more often men and women obscure in their labor, who have carried us up the long, rugged path towards prosperity and freedom. For us, they packed up their few worldly possessions and traveled across oceans in search of a new life. For us, they toiled in sweatshops and settled the West, endured the lash of the whip, and plowed the hard earth. For us, they fought and died in places like Concord and Gettysburg, Normandy, and Quai San. Time and again, these men and women struggled and sacrificed and worked till their hands were raw so that we might live a better life. They saw America as bigger than the sum of our individual ambitions, greater than all the differences of birth or wealth or faction. This is the journey we continue today. We remain the most prosperous, powerful nation on earth. Our workers are no less productive than when this crisis began. Our minds are no less inventive, our goods and services no less needed than they were last week or last month or last year. Our capacity remains undiminished, but our time of standing pat, of protecting narrow interests and putting off unpleasant decisions, that time has surely passed. Starting today, we must pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and begin again the work of remaking America. For everywhere we look, there is work to be done. The state of our economy calls for action, bold and swift, and we will act, not only to create new jobs, but to lay a new foundation for growth. We will build the roads and bridges, the electric grids and digital lines that feed our commerce and bind us together. We will restore science to its rightful place and wield technology's wonders to raise healthcare's quality and lower its cost. We will harness the sun and the winds and the soil to fuel our cars and run our factories, and we will transform our schools and colleges and universities to meet the demands of a new age. All this we can do. All this we will do. Now, there are some who question the scale of our ambitions, who suggest that our system cannot tolerate too many big plans. Their memories are short, for they have forgotten what this country has already done, what free men and women can achieve when imagination is joined to common purpose and necessity to courage. What the cynics fail to understand is that the ground has shifted beneath them, that the stale political arguments that have consumed us for so long no longer apply. The question we ask today is not whether our government is too big or too small, but whether it works, whether it helps families find jobs at a decent wage, care they can afford, a retirement that is dignified. Where the answer is yes, we intend to move forward. Where the answer is no, programs will end. And those of us who manage the public's dollars will be held to account to spend wisely, reform bad habits, and do our business in the light of day, because only then can we restore the vital trust between a people and their government. Nor is the question before us whether the market is a force for good or ill. Its power to generate wealth and expand freedom is unmatched. But this crisis has reminded us that without a watchful eye, the market can spin out of control. The nation cannot prosper long when it favors only the prosperous. The success of our economy has always depended not just on the size of our gross domestic product, but on the reach of our prosperity, on the ability to extend opportunity to every willing heart, not out of charity, but because it is the surest route to our common good. As for our common defense, we reject as false the choice between our safety and our ideals. Our founding fathers, faced with perils that we can scarcely imagine, drafted a charter to assure the rule of law and the rights of man, a charter expanded by the blood of generations. Those ideals still light the world, and we will not give them up for expedience sake. And so, to all the other peoples and governments who are watching today, from the grandest capitals to the small village where my father was born, know that America is a friend of each nation and every man, woman, and child who seeks a future of peace and dignity, and we are ready to lead once more. Recall that earlier generations faced down fascism and communism not just with missiles and tanks, but with the sturdy alliances and enduring convictions. They understood that our power alone cannot protect us, nor does it entitle us to do as we please. Instead, they knew that our power grows through its prudent use. Our security emanates from the justness of our cause, the force of our example, the tempering qualities of humility and restraint. We are the keepers of this legacy. Guided by these principles once more, we can meet those new threats that demand even greater effort, even greater cooperation and understanding between nations. We will begin to responsibly leave Iraq to its people and forge a hard-earned peace in Afghanistan. With old friends and former foes, we will work tirelessly to lessen the nuclear threat and roll back the specter of a warming planet. We will not apologize for our way of life, nor will we waver in its defense. And for those who seek to advance their aims by inducing terror and slaughtering innocents, we say to you now that our spirit is stronger and cannot be broken. You cannot outlast us, and we will defeat you. For we know that our patchwork heritage is a strength, not a weakness. We are a nation of Christians and Muslims, Jews and Hindus, and non-believers. We are shaped by every language and culture, drawn from every end of this earth, And because we have tasted the bitter swill of civil war and segregation and emerged from that dark chapter stronger and more united, we cannot help but believe that the old hatreds shall someday pass, that the lines of tribes shall soon dissolve, that as the world grows smaller, our common humanity shall reveal itself, and that America must play its role in ushering in a new era of peace. To the Muslim world, we seek a new way forward based on mutual interest and mutual respect. To those leaders around the globe who seek to sow conflict or blame their society's ills on the West, know that your people will judge you on what you can build, not what you destroy. To those who cling to power through corruption and deceit and the silencing of dissent, know that you are on the wrong side of history, but that we will extend a hand if you are willing to unclench your fist. To the people of poor nations, we pledge to work alongside you to make your farms flourish and let clean waters flow, to nourish starved bodies and feed hungry minds. And to those nations like ours that enjoy relative plenty, we say we can no longer afford indifference to the suffering outside our borders, nor can we consume the world's resources without regard to effect. For the world has changed, and we must change with it. As we consider the road that unfolds before us, we remember with humble gratitude those brave Americans who, at this very hour, patrol far-off deserts and distant mountains. They have something to tell us, just as the fallen heroes who lie in Arlington whisper through the ages. We honor them not only because they are the guardians of our liberty, but because they embody the spirit of service, a willingness to find meaning in something greater than themselves. And yet, at this moment, a moment that will define a generation, it is precisely this spirit that must inhabit us all. For as much as government can do and must do, it is ultimately the faith and determination of the American people upon which this nation relies. It is the kindness to take in a stranger when the levees break, the selflessness of workers who would rather cut their hours than see a friend lose their job, which sees us through our darkest hours. It is the firefighter's courage to storm a stairway filled with smoke, but also a parent's willingness to nurture a child that finally decides our fate. Our challenges may be new. The instruments with which we meet them may be new. But those values upon which our success depends, honesty and hard work, courage and fair play, tolerance and curiosity, loyalty and patriotism, these things are old. These things are true. They have been the quiet force of progress throughout our history. What is demanded then is a return to these truths. What is required of us now is a new era of responsibility, a recognition on the part of every American that we have duties to ourselves, our nation, and the world. Duties that we do not grudgingly accept, but rather seize gladly, firm in the knowledge that there is nothing so satisfying to the spirit, so defining of our character, than giving our all to a difficult task. This is the price and the promise of citizenship. This is the source of our confidence, the knowledge that God calls on us to shape an uncertain destiny. This is the meaning of our liberty and our creed, why men and women and children of every race and every faith can join in celebration across this magnificent mall. And why a man whose father less than 60 years ago might not have been served at a local restaurant can now stand before you to take a most sacred oath. So let us mark this day with remembrance of who we are and how far we have traveled. In the year of America's birth, in the coldest of months, a small band of patriots huddled by dying campfires on the shores of an icy river. The capital was abandoned. The enemy was advancing. The snow was stained with blood. At a moment when the outcome of our revolution was most in doubt, the father of our nation ordered these words be read to the people. Let it be told to the future world that in the depth of winter, when nothing but hope and virtue could survive, that the city and the country, alarmed at one common danger, came forth to meet it. America, in the face of our common dangers, in this winter of our hardship, let us remember these timeless words. With hope and virtue, let us brave once more the icy currents and endure what storms may come. Let it be said by our children's children that when we were tested, we refused to let this journey end, that we did not turn back nor did we falter. And with eyes fixed on the horizon and God's grace upon us, we carried forth that great gift of freedom and delivered it safely to future generations. Thank you. God bless you. And God bless the United States of America.
Well, a major drag on the Seoul Kospi is Samsung Electronics, which just posted its first ever loss. The world's largest maker of computer memory chips says it lost $16 million in the fourth quarter. It's blaming dwindling demand worldwide for chips and flat screen TVs. Samsung stock is currently down over 3.5%.
Apple stocks, it took a nosedive after word got out that the CEO, Steve Jobs, was taking a health-related time out. Now, Jobs is seen by many as a celebrity CEO. After co-founding Apple in 1976, he took the company's top spot in 1997. And within one fiscal year, he turned $1 billion annual loss into a $300 million profit. On his watch, Apple created technology icons like the iMac, the iPod, and the iPhone. So many are worried that the company just won't be the same without Jobs at the helm, even if it's just for a few months.
Well, first it was called a downturn, then a slowdown, followed by recession. But when does a recession become a depression? CNN's Christy Romans looks at the semantics of the financial crisis.
President Obama knew he was taking office in the grips of a nasty recession. But is it something worse? There it is in black and white. U.S. depression looking likely. From Albert Edwards, a London-based analyst for French bank Société Générale. He wrote last week, quote, "Economic data has been truly dreadful, consistent with something far worse than a deep recession." Scary stuff, and pretty much the worst-case scenario. Labor economist Peter Morisi also recently declared, quote, "The U.S. is already in the jaws of a depression."
We're in a depression because of structural issues in the economy. Our excessive dependence on imported oil and our huge trade deficit are pulling us down. The stimulus package will give us some temporary relief, but then the economy will sink back.
The very word depression conjures up the most unpleasant memories of the last century. 25% unemployment and an economy that shrank 30%. Depressions are so rare, there isn't really an official definition.
Is this a depression?
No, it is not.
Anirvan Banerjee studies economic cycles. First, there was a downturn, then a slowdown, now an official recession. But a depression, he says, it is not.
If the economy looks bad now, for it to be in depression means it'll look
much worse, several times as bad.
Many wonder, how can we be in a depression when the majority of Americans have not lost their job or home, and everyday life looks, on the surface at least, pretty much the same? But that fear of depression runs deep, fear shared by the last Treasury Secretary and the Fed Chairman last fall.
I was concerned that the credit freeze would cause us to be headed toward a depression greater than the Great Depression. That's what I was told if we didn't move.
Outgoing President Bush says his actions prevented it. President Obama plans to spend hundreds of billions more to make sure it doesn't happen on his watch.
This is all semantics, really. We didn't even start using the word recession until after the Great Depression. So call it a severe recession, a depression. It doesn't change what people are feeling. Christine Romans, CNN, New York.
And you know, as consumers scale back on their spending, companies are coming up with creative ways to generate sales. CNN's Mary Snow reports on some of the bold steps being taken.
With car sales stalled, Hyundai is trying a first to reel in skittish consumers worried about losing their jobs.
Buy any new Hyundai, and if in the next year you lose your income, we'll let you return it.
Bottom line, if you buy one of their cars in the next year and lose your job, you can take it back with conditions, like making at least 2 payments, and there are limits as to how much money they'll give you. Hyundai turned to an outside finance and insurance company that's run similar programs in Canada. One auto analyst says in this dismal market, car makers need to stand out, since other incentives like getting cash back aren't working.
It's a gimmick to get attention. It's a gimmick to capture those buyers that are kind of on the fence that would like a new car but are just too scared to buy one.
The auto industry has been so hard hit, one dealer outside Miami has been offering a buy one truck, get one deal since October. But it goes far beyond cars. Giant Food Stores is offering free generic prescription antibiotics to customers for the next 3 months. Wegmans announced a similar plan. Marketing experts see it as an aggressive push to compete with Walmart as more consumers turn to the discount retailer.
People like Giant and others will say, look, how can we stop Walmart? Well, you know, the one category you can go after are prescriptions, because that's the one category people buy on a regular basis. They have to.
One marketing expert we spoke with says expect retailers to keep slashing prices since inventories aren't moving, and their big fear is to have to sell merchandise to liquidators at 20 cents on the dollar. Mary Snow, CNN, New York.
You look down. What's wrong?
Well, I'm disappointed because I didn't get a promotion this time.
I'm sorry to hear that. I believe you deserve it. But cheer up. There's always a next time.
You're right. I guess I've got to look on the bright side, but I'm a little ashamed.
No need to be ashamed of that. You know the economy is slow right now.
Right. I still got my job. Now is a good time to improve myself. Nice talking to you. I feel much better now.
I guess you are a new face in our company.
Hi, I'm Dong-Soo Kim. I work in marketing.
Oh, you are the one who is supposed to be working with us.
Maybe I'm the one. I used to work in the Suwon branch. Now I am transferred to the new department of this branch.
Oh, I see. Good to have you on board. You must be an expert.
No, I'm still green. I have tons of questions to ask.
I'd be glad to help. By the way, I guess we are having a little get-together after work.
That sounds good.